Kanosuke, heard of them? If you haven't, you will. Welcome to Kanpai Planet, I'm Mac, giving you a chance to get in on the ground floor of one of Japan's most exciting new whiskey ventures with a primer and review of the first single malt from the Kanosuke Distillery. In 2017, the Kanosuke Distillery opened at Fukiagahama in Hioki City in Kagoshima Prefecture. Fukiagahama is Japan's longest sand beach, stretching 47 kilometers. The distillery is right on the beach, overlooking the East China Sea, getting plenty of sea air through its warehouses. Their slogan is Mellow Land, Mellow Whiskey. Kanosuke is named after Kanosuke Komasa, the second generation head of the distillery's parent company, Komasa Jozo. Kanosuke is the grandfather of the current president, Yoshitsugu Komasa. Back in the day, the company made only shochu, and Kanosuke Komasa is credited with establishing the method now used to age their flagship product, mellowed kozuru, the first shochu aged entirely in oak casks. The Kanosuke Distillery was born from a frustration that Yoshitsugu Komasa experienced as he tried to market his shochu overseas. Making whiskey is Komasa's way of catching the interest of drinkers outside of Japan, and this motivation also drove them to enter the craft gin market. Komasa-san spent time at distilleries in Scotland, getting most of his inspiration from Ballinadloch in Speyside, who also use 1 ton of malt for their mash. Kanosuke Distillery has 3 pot stills built by Miyake Industries, each a different size and shape, with line arms at different angles, producing different distillates. The significant temperature differential in the area, with hot summers and surprisingly cold winters, helps the whiskey breathe faster, accelerating maturation. Kanosuke have big goals. They certainly know how to make distilled spirits, but do they know how to make whiskey? Well, they've been releasing new make at regular intervals, so we've been able to track their progress. I've tried all of these, and I've been really impressed with the pace of maturation, and I'm not the only one. So, as I'm sure you can tell, I'm super excited to try this. It was released on the 16th of June 2021 in a 700 milliliter bottle, and speaking of the bottle, it's a really beautiful thing, and it was inspired by Satsuma Yaki, ceramics from the Satsuma area, which is the old name for the province where the distillery lies. In fact, Komasa Jozo is a sponsor of the Miyama Kamamoto Matsuri, a famous Satsuma-ware pottery festival. It's bottled at 58%, which is cask strength for these guys. Yes, the angel gets her fair share. The filling strength at Kanosuke is typically around 63%. It costs 13,750 yen including tax, which is about 125 US dollars, 105 euros, or 90 British pounds. It's 3 years old, which is, like Scotland, the minimum age that you need in order to call it whiskey. It's made with non-peated malt, and it's been aged in a variety of barrels. Now, I know these guys have access to bourbon, sherry, wine, even Mizunara, but the majority of components which make up this whiskey have been aged in recharred American white oak barrels. Now, where you'd normally expect these to be ex-bourbon, they have actually previously held mellowed kozuru, the company's flagship shochu product, typically for about 3 years. As I put this whiskey to the test, I'm going to have a glass of mellowed kozuru on the side. This is not intended to be a review of this shochu, but spoiler alert, it is absolutely fantastic. So, as you can see, I have the honor of opening this bottle. Fantastic. Okay, here goes. Beautiful sound. So, this is non-chill filtered and natural colour, all things that true whiskey fans love. And speaking of that colour, let's check it out. Deep amber, late afternoon golden sunset over the East China Sea, which is adjacent to the distillery. It's all very appropriate because the distillery is in Hioki City, and Hi means sun and Oki comes from Oku, which means to put down, hence sunset. Gotta say, this is a pretty deep colour for a 3-year-old whiskey, and I think that's a function of the accelerated maturation and the climate down in Kagoshima. It's all led to this incredible result. Gorgeous. Let's check it out on the nose. Should explain the face there. That was just this surprise. I was not expecting this at all. Well, I mean, I was expecting it a little bit because I've tried all of their new makes over the last 3 years. But this is a surprisingly complex single malt. I would have expected the youth of the whiskey and the cask strength 58% ABV to give this more intensity on the nose, but actually it's pretty mellow. I'm getting dates, figs, prunes, raisins, a little bit of citrus in the form of lime and lemon, a little bit of fruit, mainly berries. Wow, this does not present like a 3-year whiskey at all. In a blind tasting, this could easily be mistaken for an 8-year or older. Now, let's do a little comparison with the mellowed Kozuru Shochu. Let's see if that's exerted any influence on the whiskey. This Shochu is bottled at 41% ABV. Now, normally, Shochu would be around 25%, so it's actually a better comparison when looking at a whiskey. Well, you shouldn't be surprised to see that there clearly has been some influence of this on this. Not just in the components or the aromas, especially I think some of that softer, mellower butter, pastry, even vanilla, which is common between the two, but also in the philosophy that I think has influenced the whiskey from the shochu maker. All right, let's go on the palate. Kanpai. Ooh. On the palate, I'm getting vanilla, I'm getting caramel, and I'm getting a bit of a kick, like cinnamon. And this overall kind of woody character. Interestingly, I have heard Komasa Shacho, President Komasa, say that after his casks are recharred, he believes they behave more like virgin casks than ex-shochu casks. And that's interesting, because I'm detecting a bit of both. I'm getting the wood from that virgin cask element that he describes, but I'm also getting cinnamon and other characteristics of the mellowed Kozuru in the whiskey. Every mouthful surprises me on how much this whiskey punches well above its age. That butter or pastry I described on the nose, now a lot deeper, almost like a barbecue pork fat. That's a good thing, by the way. This is delightful. There's a little bit of nori, a seaweed there, a little salty character. Given the distillery's location by the sea, some of the conversation does lead to comparisons with Islay. I'm not getting that right now on the palate in this whiskey, but it's going to make a difference over time. Mellow. The folks at Komasa Jozo and Kanosuke Distillery throw that word around a lot, but just drink their end product. It's pretty mellow. So good. If you can get your hands on a bottle of mellowed Kozuru, I highly recommend it. On the finish, I'm getting some bitterness, like a dark chocolate. The citrus has kind of morphed more orange now. I'm feeling candied orange peel. The tasting notes suggest I should be getting soft sea breeze. Now, that may be a little bit too subtle for you guys to pick up, but when I was younger, I used to go to the beaches of Exmouth, near my hometown of Exeter, and stand there for hours on end with my mouth open, facing the sea and training my palate. So I can tell you that there definitely is some sea breeze in this dram. Joking aside, there is a bit of salt and brine here, which is more pronounced on the finish than on the palate. There's a lot more salty character actually on the finish of the shochu than there is on the whiskey. So, what's the verdict? Fantastic. The promise that I detected in the Kanosuke new makes has been fulfilled. Hot climate whiskey is here to stay. We know that from the exciting work that's been done in Taiwan and India, amongst other places, and now Kanosuke have shown that it can be done in Japan. It's easy to be cynical sometimes about variation versus innovation, but the proof is in the pudding, and this is a mighty fine dram. It's a great whiskey, not only for its age, but almost more importantly, for what it represents for the future of Japan's whiskey industry. And you know what? Things are only going to get better for Kanosuke. Admirably, President Komasa is determined to make true Japanese whiskey. So his company began distilling grain whiskey at the Hioki Distillery in 2020. Now I do have to mention the price, 13,750 yen, around 125 US dollars. That is pretty pricey for what you're getting. I was happy to pay it to support the great work that these guys are doing, but I'm hoping as they scale up and potentially expand that we will see that price dropping. These are exciting times for Japanese whiskey. With 7 distilling licenses being granted in January 2021 alone, the future looks bright for the industry in the land of the rising sun. Let's hope they all have the same dedication to quality, integrity, and a delicious end product as Kanosuke. Until next time, Kanpai!